So if East Providence keeps coming up in your search, there's a reason. You want to be close to Providence without paying East Side prices. You want a real yard. Maybe you looked at Barrington and you thought, gorgeous town, genuinely, but not at that price point. And so here you are. And here's the thing I need to tell you up front, East Providence, it's not one place. It is 5 very different neighborhoods that happen to share a zip code, and they feel completely different from each other. Different price points, different personalities, different kinds of buyers. And if you don't understand how they differ, well, then you can end up in the wrong spot, spend years wondering why it doesn't quite feel like home. Hey there, I'm Jess Powers, and I've been working in this market for more than 14 years, and East Providence, well, it's one of my favorite towns to talk about. Frankly, because most people underestimate it. So let's fix that. All right, so after a decade of doing this gig, I can tell you who ends up in East Providence. It's buyers who want proximity to Providence without paying East Side prices. First-time buyers trying to stay within a realistic budget without compromising their whole lifestyle. It's people who genuinely care about being outside. You've got the bike path, you've got access to the water, actually having somewhere to go on a Tuesday evening. And here's something I see all the time. Buyers who start their search somewhere else entirely. Maybe they're looking in Cranston or Warwick or maybe even Pawtucket. They look around for a while and eventually, well, they end up here because they realize East Providence gets them closer to the city, closer to the water, and often gives them maybe better bones in the house for maybe even a little bit less money. Once people find it, they wonder why they didn't start here. So I'm going to talk you through all the different neighborhoods, but before we get into that, I want to anchor one thing that changes how you search here. Now, the median sale price in East Providence in 2025 was $430,000. That number is useful, but only to a point, because what you get for $430,000 in Rumford looks nothing compared to what you get in Riverside or especially the Terrace. Same budget, completely different house, different neighborhood, different lifestyle. Now, homes in East Providence, kind of like everywhere in Rhode Island, they sell pretty fast and they often sell over asking. This is a competitive market. We're still in a seller's market. Now, if you find something you love in East Providence, you don't have 3 weeks to think about it. So the real decision you're making isn't just, can I afford East Providence? It's which neighborhood actually fits how you want to live. That's what I want to walk you through. Now let's start up north and we're gonna talk about Rumford. Rumford has this thing where it actually kind of feels like maybe its own little town. I mean that as a compliment. It's got tree-lined streets. You've got older homes, New England character galore. That's genuinely hard to find at an accessible price point. This is where buyers land when they want more traditional, kind of that residential feel, quick access still to East Side without actually living in Providence, and actually quick access to Pawtucket, and if you're heading north into Boston. Now the housing stock, it's classic Rhode Island. You've got 1920s, colonials, capes, few mid-century builds. Those are solid homes. And the pricing, it tells the full story of how much variation exists within just one neighborhood. You can find entry-level homes in the low to mid 400s, but as you move up through Rumford, the prices move with you. We're talking into $700,000, $800,000 at the very top end, well over even $1 million. Newman Avenue has some of the most architecturally significant homes in the entire city. Now, Rumford Center, it's worth mentioning because it's a good example of what Rhode Island historic preservation can look like when it's done right. The old Chemical Works building was beautifully rehabilitated into lofts and shops. The 10-mile River Greenway, which has a beautiful bike path, runs through Rumford. You've got the Watchemoket Country Club nearby, and the neighborhood has that quality where people actually genuinely stay. It's not a transient area. People buy in Rumford, they put down roots. So then we move over to Kent Heights. That's your classic suburban pocket. And I say that with real affection. Not every buyer wants edge or character or, an adventure. Some buyers, they want quiet streets. They want stable neighbors. They want a yard where their kids can actually play without hearing traffic. And they want affordable. Kent Heights is that for most buyers. Most homes here fall roughly in that 375 to 475 range. That's our first-time home buyers. There's ranches, there's capes, you got post-war builds that are solid, they're unpretentious. What stands out is predictability. People buy here, they stay for a while, maybe even decades. And the elevation is actually higher than the waterfront areas, which gives it this, I don't know, it's kind of open, it's breezy. It's got that feel a little bit different than what you expect. I love Kent Heights Park. It's 21 acres on Clyde Avenue. It's genuinely well used, great community park, baseball fields, soccer, tennis, playgrounds. You're 10 minutes to downtown Providence. You've got a real suburban yard, they're pretty big. You don't really typically have through traffic. If that balance is what you're after, then Kent Heights definitely delivers it. So then there's central East Providence, Watchemoket. That's where East Providence shows its more urban soul, and it's probably, honestly, one of the most underrated pockets of value in the entire city. This is the part of East Providence that feels like a neighborhood in the city sense of the word. You've got some commercial corridors right along Broadway and Taunton Avenue. You've got street life, you've got coffee shops, bakeries, you've got a couple local restaurants. Those are the kind of places where people actually are able to get out and know each other. You can leave your car in the driveway, you can walk to things, which in most of Rhode Island suburbs is not really an option. Of course, it's more dense. You've got some historic homes. You've got a mix of single families and multifamilies. It's different zoning. So if you're an investor, this is a spot where you want to look, or if you're a house hacker, this is the spot to check out in East Providence. Pricing, it's a little bit more accessible. You've got mid 300s to mid 400s. Of course, that depends upon the size and the condition, but don't mistake accessible for slow, because again, buyers are competing here too. I love Bold Point Park. That sits right on the water with skyline views of Providence, beautiful sunsets, lots of great music. There's Myrtle, which is a vintage shop. It's also a bar and a fabulous music venue all in one. It's become a really great community hub that's really finding its way. You should definitely check it out. And then there's Henderson Bridge, if you're up in the northern part of this area. If you haven't heard of it, write it down, because it is so much easier getting through traffic. It's right off of Massasoit Avenue, gets you on the east side of Providence in about 5 minutes. No 195, no Washington Bridge congestion. Now, if you work at Brown or RISD or one of the hospitals, Henderson Bridge, it is not just convenient, it is practically a necessity. So people who know about it buy in this area specifically because of it. Sometimes renters also who want great proximity to the east side, but they can't afford east side rents, this is the area they look in. So now we're gonna head towards the water and things shift again. This is Riverside. It's a little quirky. It's got salt air, it's got housing stock that is genuinely unpredictable. Tiny winterized cottages next to Victorian homes, next to mid-century bungalows, all on narrow, winding, curvy, mazy streets. It's a little swamp Yankee. There's this kind of artistic bohemian streak. And if that's your thing, then you're gonna love it immediately. If not, you will know it within 5 minutes. You will drive by and you will say, no thanks, Jess. Now the history is worth knowing. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Riverside was a destination. People actually came by train. They came by steamboat to Crescent Park. It was a full amusement park right on the bay. The Louvre Carousel is the only surviving piece of it, and it's now a National Historic Landmark. It's still there. You can still ride it. I took my kids when they were little. That's the kind of thing that makes Riverside genuinely unlike anywhere else in East Providence. And then there's the East Bay Bike Path. That is Riverside's main street. People even use it to commute into Providence, not just for exercise. 30 to 45 minutes ride. That beats sitting on 195 most days. Sabin Point Park, that offers fishing, boat access, lighthouse views. Rose Larissa Park has a summer concert series on a bluff overlooking the water, and this has spectacular sunsets. This is a neighborhood with strong identity and very loyal residents. Now pricing ranges. You've got the mid 300s on the standard end up to 600,000s if you get closer to the water. You're not buying perfection here. You are buying lifestyle, community, and access to the water. Riverside, it is that combination. And then there's the Terrace. This is my favorite neighborhood in East Providence, and I want to make sure you understand it properly because it's not just part of Riverside, it's its own thing entirely. Narragansett Terrace is a long, narrow peninsula. It juts into Narragansett Bay. You've got one way in and you've got one way out, virtually zero through traffic. Now, when you're down there, you have genuinely left the rest of East Providence behind, which is either exactly what you want or it's a clear sign that it's not for you. My clients who have bought here, they don't leave. Why would you? Especially if you're on the waterfront. Now, the housing is a mix of original tiny summer cottages, mid-century bungalows, and more recent high-end builds designed specifically around water views. Some homes at the tip of the point, they actually have water views on both sides. Sunsets on the bay, you've got beautiful sunrises in the morning, right over Bullock's Cove to the east. Now, nearly every street ends at the water or a neighborhood right away to the water. The vibe is coastal bohemian in the truest sense. There is no pretension in this neighborhood. You'll see a beautifully renovated home right next to one that hasn't changed since 1975, and both neighbors are on their porches having a conversation or sitting on their decks having wine. It has a genuinely rare quality, but pricing reflects all of that. The interior homes, they run about $500,000 to $700,000 these days. Move toward the water exposure and premium views, and you are looking at $800,000 to well over $1 million. These aren't necessarily large homes. The lot sizes really can be pretty small. Parking can be challenging. Flood insurance is real. Salt air maintenance, that is real. But if you want that Rhode Island coastal feeling with water access at the end of nearly every street, there is nowhere else in East Providence that delivers quite like this. Now, if schools are a major factor in your decision, I'm going to be direct. East Providence is a mixed bag. The school district doesn't rank at the very top of the state. You've got to do your own research. You've got to check those school report cards. You've got to look at niche.com. You've got to talk to families who live there. Honestly, it's too important to take anyone's word for it, including mine. What works for one family doesn't genuinely work for another all the time. Now, before I wrap up, I've got a couple other things that I want every buyer to understand before they go under contract here in East Providence. Rhode Island housing stock, it's old, and East Providence is no exception. You've got older systems, older mechanicals. Those are tricky issues to maintain. Not necessarily deal breakers, but things to budget for. A thorough home inspection really isn't optional. But if you're near the water, Riverside, the Terrace, understand your flood zone. Price flood insurance into your budget before you fall in love with the property. Now, some homes are going to require it, but some don't. Some areas are actually pretty high up, great elevation, and don't require flood insurance. Knowing which one it is and knowing what you're looking at is key. That Washington Bridge and the 195 situation has been a headache for commuters heading west towards Providence. If that's your route daily, you've got to understand your back road options, and you have to be realistic about what you can handle. Henderson Bridge, it's great. It can be very strategic, doesn't necessarily work in every location. Now, on the plus side, East Providence offers a 14% homestead exemption for owner-occupied properties. That's a real reduction in your tax bill compared to what investors are paying on the same home. You're also getting genuine outdoor infrastructure, the East Bay Bike Path, the 10-mile River Greenway, Sabin Point. And there's a real emerging energy in parts of the city, particularly around waterfront redevelopment. You've got Kettle Point, East Point. It hasn't been fully priced in yet. So East Providence works really well for a specific buyer. It works if you want proximity to Providence without Providence price tag or without Providence drama. It works for lifestyle, access, water, bike path, community. What matters to you? It works if you're thinking long-term and you're understanding the trade-offs. It's probably not the right fit if you need top-tier school rankings, or if you want brand new construction, or if you prefer a town where every neighborhood has kind of that uniform character. Spoiler alert, that doesn't exist in Rhode Island for the most part. So if you want community, you want character, you want outdoor access, you want honest price comparatively to what you're getting, East Providence deserves a serious look. The question isn't really whether East Providence works, it's which neighborhood within it is actually the one for you. That's what I help people figure out. It's my favorite part of the job. So if you want to have a conversation with me, you can find my contact info in the description. I'd love to help you find your place, and I'm always here to help.